What's the point of building a career, of having a ministry, having a business, if it costs us the people that we're building it for? And for us dads, for us husbands, it's our wives, it's our kids. Think about it for a moment. After a long day at work, just doing the best that we can, grinding, trying to serve our community, trying to serve our customers. But when we get home from work, we're only giving our leftovers to our wives. We don't have the energy to connect with them. We don't have energy to connect with our kids. We just want to have our me time. Think about it for a moment. Is that what success really looks like? So if that's you today, this conversation is for you. You're the person that I want to have this conversation today, because I think for many of us, we're probably in a crossroads where we're thinking, am I in the right career? Do I need to move to a different job? And for some of us, we're confused. What's causing this tension? What's causing this anxiety? You're not doing anything sinful, but there's dissatisfaction, there's burnout, and you're trying to figure it out. What is it? You know, there was a time in my career when I thought success meant that it's climbing the corporate ladder. It's having that job title, having role, that salary. I don't think that having a huge salary, being able to provide financially for your families is something sinful. I think for us who are dads, who are husbands, who desire to have a family, it's our responsibilities to be able to provide for them. But I think for many of us, even including myself, we don't have a clear definition of what success looks like. And we look at the world's examples, we look at what our bosses, what our mentors tell us what our success looks like. And at the end of the day, because we don't have that clear definition of what really matters most to us or what success looks like for us, we start climbing this ladder, and when we get to the top, we find that it's leaning against the wrong wall. And we find ourselves burned out, we find ourselves dissatisfied, we find ourselves not being able to connect with our wives, with our kids. And we go through this cycle of asking the question, do I move to the next job? Do I move to the next role? You see, the problem is not the job. The problem is not the position that we're in, but we never took the time to pause and really define what is it that matters most to us? What is our values? What is the vision for our life? And then having those two framework now aligning to see, does the job, does the opportunity that I have, again, not just in the marketplace, but even in the church ministry, does it align with my non-negotiables? Does it align with how I want those non-negotiables play out in my life day in and day out? Earlier in my career, I started in the Big Four firm, and it was a great opportunity, but I knew it wasn't for me. But during that time, I didn't have that context that that was not the right position for me. So a lot of opportunities were opening up for me in the audit, in the IT space, in the data analytics. And when I asked my fiance, who is my wife now for the past almost 15 years now, she said to me that it's not going to work out. Because as soon as we got engaged, I think it was about a week after we got engaged, I was gone for 5 weeks. I was traveling. I had a client in Washington. Then I had a client in Southern California. So I was gone for 5 weeks. I would come home for the weekends, and she told me that it's not going to work out. At the time, that's when I started thinking that maybe this is not the right place for me. Again, during that time, I didn't have a clear idea what my values were, what my vision is for my life and for my future family, for me and my wife. So I still just kind of went on with my career and so on, just doing the best that I can with what I knew what a provider should be. And then fast forward to about 2 to 3 years after that conversation, a mentor of mine, my former VP, I hit him up because I was in a job where I thought that my manager wasn't good. I didn't understand what the issue was. You see, there was a common denominator when I was moving from one place to the next. It wasn't my manager, it wasn't the company, it was me. And I think for many of us who's jumping from career to career, from role to role, if you think about it, if we can be honest with ourselves, there's a common denominator in all those movements, and it's us. And I remember my VP at the time when I was having this conversation with him, he was just so honest with me. He told me that for him, because I was giving him all these, not excuses, but I was trying to justify why he should hire me, why he should consider me for a role. I said, hey, I think I'm ready to become a manager, to be a director, and eventually move up to a VP position. And he was honest with me and he said, you know, for me, Ezekiel, I know that my calling is to be in the marketplace, to move up, to be a VP, to be an executive someday. But he said, knowing you the past few years, I don't think that's your values. I don't think those are your non-negotiables. And to be honest with you, I was offended and I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. But over the years, as I continued to try to figure things out, learning what a provider is and things like that, I started to understand more and more that the question that I've been asking myself was probably not the best question. You see, if you're in the marketplace, or if you're in the big four accounting space, in the tech space, you probably hear this a lot. Where do you see yourself 3 to 5 years from now? And that's always the question that I ask myself when I would have lunches with my friends, with my former coworkers and my peers. That's always the discussion. Where do you see yourself? What kind of job title do you see? What companies do you see yourself in? What if that's not the right question to ask? What if the better question to ask is, what is the person that you want to become? The issue is not our jobs. The issue is we haven't defined what success looks like for us. We're looking at our friends, we're looking at our peers, and we're using that as a standard of what success looks like. And I'm not saying that their definition of success is wrong or not. What if their definition of success is not the definition of success that you really want? Think about it for a moment. How many people do you know that climb that ladder of success, and at the end of the day, they find themselves burned out, they find themselves unhappy, and they go through this cycle of blaming their jobs, blaming their roles, and trying to move on to that next opportunity, to that next place. That's what happens when you let your careers or other people define what success looks like for you. So if you're in a position right now where you feel that you're not happy in your career, or you're thinking about what's your next move, should I stay or should I go? And again, the intent of this episode is not for you to stay in your job, but the intent of this video is for us to pause, to slow down, and to think about what is the why behind our decisions. What is the why behind our discontent? It's for us to take a step back and stop asking the question, before we ask the question of where do we see ourselves 3 to 5 years from now, to start asking the better questions as dads, as husbands. What kind of husband, what kind of father, what kind of man do I want to be? And then from there, ask the question, what do I want my family to remember me by? What are the core memories that I want my children to have? What are the memorable moments that I want to have with my wife? So it's focusing on the who question before the what question. You see, your family doesn't need a bigger paycheck if that's going to cost them your presence. They need you. Earlier this summer, my wife and I decided to stop our online business. And my wife had the discussion with our older son and explained to him our decision to stop that business. My son responded and he said that that's a good thing because now dad will have more time with us. When my son said that, even when I'm sharing this with you right now, I get very emotional because I'm doing the best that I can for my family. I let go of hobbies, I let go of some of the things that I used to do, and for the past few years, I'm doing my best in the company that I'm in, so grateful to be there, but at the same time building these other streams of income so that we can support our family to go on vacations, to be able to do activities and things like that. And when my son said that, it made me realize that our family needs our presence more than our presence. They need you, they need me. This summer we didn't go to Disneyland, we didn't have any fancy trips or anything like that. We spent the summer just being at home. We watched a lot of movies, we played a lot of Monopoly, we went to the water park close to our home. Nothing extravagant, nothing big. But you know what? This was probably the best summer that we had. We built a lot of memories together and it didn't cost us that much. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong to go to Disneyland, it's not wrong to go to Mexico or Hawaii. We love going on those trips. But is it worth it to go to those extravagant vacations if it's gonna cost us our time, our presence with our family? One of the things that my wife and I learned earlier on in our marriage is that Money you can always earn back, but time, once you lose it, you can never earn it back. And again, I'm not saying not to go on those vacations. We strive to have those memories with our kids because we want to pour as much memories, as much good memories as we can give them before they transition out of our homes. When they become 18 years old, we want to build those core memories with them, because part of our vision, part of our prayer for our family is that we want our kids to come back to be with us when they don't have to be. Your family doesn't need a bigger paycheck if it's going to cost them your presence. They need you. And the way to give them that is to create a life plan that aligns with your values and your priorities. The man, the husband, the dad we want to be for them before we define the business plan, before we define the careers, the job titles that we want to get to. So today I want to just give you some practical steps on how to define that. The big takeaway is that before you define your business plan, to first define your life plan. The person that you want to be, the man that you want to be for your wife, the man that you want to be for your kids, the memories that you want to give them. So how do we do that? So first, it's defining our values. Number two is defining our vision, how that looks like. And then number three is to doing an audit of where we are in life, auditing our careers, auditing our business decision to make sure that it aligns with 1 and 2. So let's talk about defining our values. So what does that mean? What does defining our values mean? So our values are anchors. It's our foundation. These are our non-negotiables. These are the framework that builds our family. These are the foundations for our family, for our marriage, and even for ourselves. It's about identifying the why behind why you do what you do. It's defining the why behind your decisions. So for me, for example, my anchors, my values for myself, for my families are faith, my family, my health. Very simple. That means that when it comes to faith, that means I prioritize my time with God daily. Before I do anything else, I make sure that I read the Bible, I pray, that I spend time with God. That's a non-negotiable for me. Family means that I'm present for my wife and kids, not just physically, but I'm there emotionally. Now, for many years, I was there physically, but not emotionally for my wife or for my kids. And I'll be honest with you, it's not about perfection, because even to this day, there are moments in my life where I'm there physically, but I'm not there emotionally. And again, it's not about perfection, but because I define what my values are, now I can audit, does my action reflect my non-negotiable? So the goal here is not to make you feel guilty. The goal here is for you to start thinking about what are the non-negotiables for your life. Because if you don't define what matters most to you, if you don't define the non-negotiables for your life, other people will define that for you. They're going to make sure that you prioritize what's important for them. Health is another value for me. That means that I take care of my body. I track my macros. I make sure I get enough rest. I make sure I train, I exercise, because that's something that I value, because I want to make sure that I'm healthy for my wife, I'm healthy for my kids, I'm healthy for my company, the people that I get to serve. So what are your anchors? What are the non-negotiables for you? I give you my examples, but I'm not saying to copy mine, but for you to pause and to think about what are the non-negotiables for your life. Because if you don't define your non-negotiables, other people will define that for you. Now, step number 2 is to define your vision. So what is vision? Think of it as evidence. Think of it as how you would validate that what you're saying, what your values, your non-negotiables are actually being put into place. That your values are being lived out day in, week out. It's about painting a specific picture of what those values look like in your daily life. So if I say I value my family, my vision, how that's played out in my life is that I'm home for dinner at least 5 nights a week. Because of my jobs, sometimes I have to work in the evening. There was a season of my life where I was serving in the ministry. So I had to define, if I say family is my value, I have to define with my wife, how does that look like? Not just for me, but communicating that with my wife to make sure that we're in alignment. Because there was a season in my life, I'll be honest with you, where I would say one thing, or I wasn't clear what my values were, and my vision, how my nights were being spent, was being defined by other people. I would come home from work and I would be going out having meetings for ministries and things like that. I wasn't doing anything sinful, but it wasn't aligned with what the values are for me and my wife. And because of that, it caused a lot of tension, it caused a lot of unhealth in our families. So for some of you today who might be listening to this, the tension that you're experiencing might not be because of a job. It might not be because of a role, but it might be something deeper because you haven't clearly defined your non-negotiables, and your day in, day out, your vision, how that's being played out, it's not aligning well. Another example that I can give you how vision plays out in my life is that when it comes to family, for me, that means that I'm present in my kids' practices and activities. I had a coach one time and said that you need to communicate to your child that you cannot be there because you have to work. And as much as I respected that coach, that didn't align with me. But because I knew what my values were, even though this coach would help me make 10x of whatever I paid him, I said no. Because that amount of money I can always earn back. But that time, the value that I defined for myself of being present in my kids' practices, in my kids' games, once that games is done, I can never go back to that. But I wouldn't be able to define that for myself. I wouldn't be able to make that clear decision if I didn't define what my values were and how that translates to the vision in my life. Your vision is the proof. It's the evidence that you're living out what you say are your non-negotiables, what you say are the most important things to you. So what does that look like for you? What would your ideal day? Now think about this for a moment. If you haven't defined your vision, what would your ideal day or your week would look like if you were fully aligned with your values? Now the last step is after you've defined your values, your non-negotiable, after you've defined your ideal day, ideal week, now you're gonna audit your current job, the decision that you're about to make. Audit the decisions that you're about to make or the decisions that you're making right now against your vision and your values, how your ideal day or week should look like. Look at your job and ask yourself, does my work, does my schedule, the projects that I'm about to say yes to, the company that I'm in, just opportunities that's in front of me, are they supporting the vision or are they pulling me away from it? If you don't run that check, if you don't pause long enough and you just say yes to what's good in front of you, might not be sinful, you might be missing out on what really matters most to you. And after some time, because the decisions that you made is not aligning to your why, what's really important for you, is not aligning to your vision, how you want your ideal day, how you want your ideal week to look like, your nights to look like, you will find yourselves unhappy, and it's not going to be good for yourself, it's not going to be good for your company, it's not going to be good for the people that you get to serve. And if you don't do that check, you're always going to be prioritizing other people's priorities, and you're going to be writing their stories instead of you writing the stories that God has called you to write for yourself, for your wife, and for your family. You see, one of the things I'm realizing is that not everyone's going to get it. Not everyone's going to agree with your values. Not everyone's going to agree with your vision. And your job is not to convince them. Your job is not to please people. Your job is to figure out who you are, who you're meant to be, and live that out. Now, it's going to be costly sometimes. A lot of times for myself, there's some opportunities where I had to let go, and it's not going to make sense then. But because now I'm in a position in my life right now where I have clarity on my non-negotiable, what my values, what my day in and my week should look like, I'm able to make these adjustments, and my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids are healthier. And because of that, I'm able to live from overflow. What I mean by that is that because my home life is going well, not perfect, not saying that we're always going to Hawaii or anything like that. Like I said earlier, we didn't go to any of that. But because we have clarity on who we're supposed to be, not trying to be someone else, I'm able to live from a place of overflow That means that when I show up at my work, when I show up in service and things like that, I'm able to give my best. Because now I'm not trying to be someone that I'm not. And that's my goal, and that's my prayer, and that's my encouragement for you. When you understand who you're meant to be, when you define the person that you want to become, then you get to show up, then you get to be the best person that you can be. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is about Jacob. In Jacob's life, he was asked 2 times what his name was. The first time he was asked what his name was by his dad, "What's your name?" He lied and he said his name is Esau. And because of that, he got the approval of men. He got the job title. He got the career that he wanted, but after some time, he found himself running away from home. He found himself in exile, dissatisfied, burned out, unhappy. Some of us were in a place like that. You don't know what your values are, what your vision is for your family, for your life, and you have the job title, you have the salary, you probably have the house, even the car, but you find yourselves unhappy, dissatisfied. The second time Jacob was asked, "What's your name?" he was finally honest. He said, "My name is Jacob." And in scripture, the word Jacob means deceiver. He said, "You know what? This is me. I'm a deceiver. This is my true self." And it said in scripture, when he finally accepted who he was, what his non-negotiables were, what his vision is, it says that God blessed him. And his name was changed. And I believe today that there's a turning point that's happening in some of you today. The solution to your burnout, the solution to your dissatisfaction is not a job title. It's not a new role, but it's you spending some time after this video, maybe opening up your laptop, maybe opening up your iPad, and maybe spend 10 minutes and have that honest discussion with myself. Am I the person that I want to be 5 years from now? Am I the person that I want to become for my wife, for my kids? And again, the goal here is not for you to feel guilty. The goal here is for you to have that awareness, because once you start having that awareness, admitting where you are, now you can take the next step to get to who you want to become, to get to where you want to be. So friends, I hope that this video, that this time that we get to spend together is helpful to you. Would love to hear your comments, how this video is resonating with you. Drop it below, and if you know anyone that needs this reminder, that needs this encouragement, please go ahead and share it with them. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Let's continue to grow and lead without burning out, both at home and at work.